Hi YouTube, Repoman 64. I'm doing this on the computer today because I have a lot of things to show you. A couple of things that I found that are really cool. And Keegan Fernandez made a comment in the community section. And he said, I would rather show you something or give you a rapture date and be wrong than not show you and it happen. These are high watch days. God hasn't come to me and told me when it's going to happen. We're all trying to figure this out. And I found something, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I had never noticed it before, um, or didn't put it together in my head before, that creation happened on September the 11th. Now, this is my timeline, timeline number one, calling the head of the year on March 17th. I think it's always been March 17th since the day of creation. I think that the four-star Pegasus skirting along the horizon has always happened, and I think it's governed by the wobble of the Earth. Even the sun moves every 2,000 years, and I'm going to get into that, to a new constellation. Currently, it's in Pisces. The very next constellation, which is coming up, some say we're already in it, is Aquarius. And we will go through the millennium in Aquarius, and the head of the year will still be March 17th, but the sun will appear in Aquarius. And I'll show you all that here in a second. Bob Barber over at End Times Dreams and Visions just did a really good video. I'd go watch it on the events of 9/11 that have happened. 9/11, again, I believe is the creation of the earth. I also believe it's Jesus's birthday. It's either 9/11 or 9/15. I'm going to show you why there's a 4-day gap, which appears throughout the timeline. And I just noticed it. And I've been working on it, trying to put it together. So let's go over here real quick to show you this. Now, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I hope it doesn't glare, but I can't see without them. This is a real thing. The Earth going around the sun moves one constellation every 2,000 years. In other words, every approximately 24,000 years, the sun will goes through all 12 constellations. It starts where it began. It says 25,800, and roughly every 2,150 years. And this is a real thing. You can go look it up yourself and see that. So when they say in the time of Jesus, hide this. When they say in the time of Jesus that the sun was in Aries, you find it in Leviticus. It was. It absolutely was. It just isn't now. It is now in Pisces when the spring equinox crosses over the equator, which is not to be confused with the equinox that I look at. It's still the equinox. It happens when we are in Pisces. It happens in March. It will always happen in the equinox and equilux will always happen in March. But where it shows on the constellation moves. So in 2000, we have here, this is where we're at now, literally at the very end of Pisces, about to come into Aquarius. You know the song, "It is the dawning of the age of Aquarius." And they recognized this. They recognized this a few thousand years ago, and I think it said Sir Isaac Newton noticed it, and they've been trying to nail down how much time it is. To me, it would be 24,000 years because it would move 2,000 years per constellation. There's 12 constellations. There are not 13 constellations, there are 12. In Jesus' time, right here, the sun would have been in Aries. The Lamb that takes away the sins of the world came to earth, Emmanuel, God with us, and paid for our sin debt. Taurus, the bull, this is when the flood happened. Gemini, God and man together in the garden during creation. The stars tell the story. So, and I don't know if anybody else can help me with this, but the stars do tell the story, but that's representative of 4 or 4.5. So there are the other constellations. Is it possible that during creation, let me see here if I can find it. Is this it? During creation, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. This is not day one. This is before day one. How much time is involved in this passage? How much time is in here? Because on day one, when the sun was in Gemini, and we can show that. I mean, mathematically, we can show the sun was in Gemini. When the sun was in Gemini, during the first day of creation, when God created everything, is it that on the first day when the procession of the sun, I'm trying to find the word, procession of the sun started in Gemini, God with man, the first day of creation, God says, "Let there be light." Remember, before the first day, we need these things to survive. We need the light, we need the firmament, we need all these things. On the sixth day, God even had to wait until the sixth day to create us, because without all these other things in place. Now, I do know and I do believe that each one of these is one day. Morning and evening and morning were the first day. So we know that that was the first day. We know that this was the second day. But let's see here. Where do I go now? This is the one part I don't like. My phone, I can just order it, put everything in order. Here is the day on the fourth day where God created time. Again, mankind exists in time. I don't know that the angels existed in time. I know everything was created, including the angels. Exactly when, I don't know. But there are 12 constellations, and 4 of them are being used up for us and our time period. What are the other 8 being used for? Were they different time periods? Did God create? Now remember, God created the angels. And let's see here. How do I do this? I don't know where I'm at. Here? Nope. That's not it. I'm going to wind up messing up, aren't I? Okay, here. I'm not good with this program, so I don't use it. There I am. Oops, I messed up. Sorry about this. I'm learning this. Okay, so God created mankind knowing everything. He's God. He knows everything. He's omnipotent, knows everything. He creates a group of people, us, the mankind, in that we are saved. I'm trying to find the right words to say so that I can articulate this properly to you. The angels are not savable. They worship God because they were created. Mankind worships God because we were saved. So we have a whole other thing that happened before we came. And that, I believe, is 4 constellations. Which 4, I don't know. It had to be before ours, because we can see right there on creation that he created all this first. For example, this is a pencil. It's a big pencil. This pencil was made. It was not created. In order to make this pencil, God himself had to create a tree. You can't make something unless it was created first. So God created everything. All the ingredients for a meal, like Dr. Berry makes a meal. Dr. Berry does, and I actually make that beef. It's not stew, in the crock pot that he did a year ago. I still actually make that. I have that recipe. I took a picture of it on the screen when he made it. So I just made it the other day with the peppers and everything. It's pretty good. But you need the ingredients in order to do anything. So, for example, we've been on this planet for 6,000 years. We were making things from wood, but then we discovered metal and all kinds of, and now then plastic, and then oil to run cars. You couldn't make a car if you didn't find the oil. So all of this stuff was made, not created. God created it. After that, we think, oh, we're so smart. We created it. No, you didn't create anything. God made it. God created it, and we made it. So God created anything we made, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have anything. So the four previous constellations, what did they represent? Were they at the time of the angels, when the angels were created, and a third of them fell and are chained up or down here messing with us or whatever they're doing, and then 2/3 of the angels are still in heaven. They are not savable. Jesus did not come to this planet to save them. We are in the age of grace, and I got a little message from Kevin Spinebreaker, and there's an idea flying around that during the rapture, if you look back, you're going to fall back to earth. And we saw that in this goofy movie that I saw about the rapture. It was a comedy. And when they looked down or acted wrong, they were thrown back. We are in, let me clarify this real clear for everybody. You can't lose salvation. Once you have it, you cannot lose it. It cannot go anywhere. You can't look it away by turning back and look at Earth. Me personally, I'm probably going to look back just to see how splendorful the planet is that God created. So the concept of you doing something to lose yourself, and there is only one sin that will separate you from God permanently, and you can't come back, and that is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. And the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is when God comes to call you and you reject the idea that Jesus came here, died on a cross, and on the third day rose and paid the penalty sin for all of us. That is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. And to do that, you really got to be consciously trying to do that. All right, let me get out of here. How do I get out of here? Yay. All right, let's go back to the screen. All right, so on the fourth day, God creates time. Now pay attention to the fourth day. That's very important here. Let me keep going through this. Gemini, the twins. This is where I believe, if I go back through the precession of the sun, we're going to see that the sun started in Gemini. The first day of the year back then, before the flood, the Earth turned on its axis during the flood. I think who just had a really good video on that. I'm not going to remember right now. It might have been Mikhail. I don't recall who it was, but they had a really good video on it where they showed that, in fact, the Earth turned on its axis, which caused summer to become winter. It just switched it around. Anyway, behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed. This is 1 John 3, 1 through 3. Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed on us, that we should be called children of God. Therefore, the world does not know us, because it did not know him. Beloved, now we are children of God, and it has not yet been revealed what we shall be. But we know that when he is revealed, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And everyone who has this hope in him purifies himself or herself, just as he is pure. So I'm assuming I can't see them. I'm assuming I can still be seen in the corner. So God is going to save you in spite of you, if that makes sense. If it was up to us, we'd all fail. The Bible says we'd all fail. So I wouldn't have any fears about looking around as you're going up. I don't think that that's what the passage meant for Lot right there. All right, so here we go. On 9/11, when I think that perhaps either the rapture will occur or a great warning, again, this is a high watch date. I'm just looking at all of the indicators that show this date. This is where the sun is. It's like a halo over the bride. Here's the same date. You know that the constellations share some stars, and here's the same exact date. The sun is right here in Leo. And I want to point out a Bible verse about this. Let's see here. Right here. No, this is not it. But let's go ahead and read it anyway. This program drives me nuts. Revelation. I can order these pictures on my phone. I just can't order them on this computer. I'm not good at it. So I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. Jesus is the bright and morning star. And the Spirit and the bride say, Come, and let him that heareth say, Come, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take of the water of life freely. I think what I'll do is take these out of here when I'm done with them. That way I don't get confused. That was my first timeline when I first started. I've added so much to it since then. There's so much whiteout on this timeline as I worked on it and fixed it. Gemini I'm done with. Halo. Okay, remember this again. I'm trying to find the passage. You see where Venus is and where the sun is on this date of 9/11? Remember the story in the Bible of the lion with the honey inside of it? I believe that perhaps this is what it was pointing to. Let me find the story. There it is. This is Samson's riddle. This is our riddle. Maybe that was the sign for us to look at this riddle. And after a time, he returned to take her. And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took thereof in his hands and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told them not them that I can't see, but he told them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So I got to get better glasses. Again, what do we see here? Who is the honey? Honey is the salvation. And here we see Venus and the sun right there in Leo, the lion. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Another example showing 9/11, honestly. Whoops. Let me move this out of the way. Why do we have Jupiter on here? Let's see. On 9/11, Jupiter and the moon will be exactly where the year begins in our current time. That being said, again, another example of 9/11 and where Jupiter is, Neptune is. Okay, I'm just getting to the good stuff here in a second, promise. Again, this is where creation began. And you can prove that just based on the 2,000 years precession of the sun per constellation. It goes back every 2,000 years, the sun moves to a new constellation. Let me see if this actually goes to the next one. No, it doesn't. Let me, this is annoying. Let's see here. This is the flood. That's where the sun was during the flood. This is Jesus in Aries, the sun in Aries. This is Jesus, representative of the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. And this is right now. This is where the sun is right now at the beginning of the year at the equinox. I use the equinox, but it's literally 4 days, and there's that 4 days again apart. All right, let's keep going through here. Now, as we work through this, We're trying to figure this out, but remember, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. So again, this is information I'm giving. We can go, study it and figure it out. Hopefully, you learn something from the precession of the sun and everything. All right, let me get rid of that. I'm sorry about this. I literally, this is why I do not look at the moon right here. However, I want to clarify this. I'm not saying it's wrong, because the moon is spoken of, and Spinebreaker showed this to me, that in Samuel, where David was hiding out, he hid out until the third day when the moon was visible to him. So there is something that happens for the moon. I just don't personally believe it is for us to use to count to our years and our days. I think that the sun and the precession of the sun very well explain the history, the last 6,000 years of our history, and that our time has always began on September before the flood and March after the flood, and we can see that as well. And this is what Enoch says about this. The new moon calendar was the official calendar of the Greeks, and when Alexander the Great conquered the Middle East in the 4th century BCE, so 400 years before Christ, and a lot of people, I'll hear them say, well, this moon calendar has been around since before Jesus. You're right, and here's why. The lunar the lunar calendar was introduced and was gradually accepted by most of the people, except for the Hebrew people. In 172 BC, King Antiochus appointed Menelaus as Jerusalem high priest and to introduce the Greek way of educating young people to completely Hellenize the Hebrew people. So the Greeks are the ones that introduced this moon theory. They were the ones that introduced the lunar calendar to them. And yes, while it is very old, it doesn't make it right. I wanted to show you this again. This will happen every year on March 16th. It is the day of equal parts. It is 12 hours in the day and 12 hours a night. Just like Jesus said when they had come to him about Lazarus dying, he makes a random comment that says, are there not 12 hours in the day? This tells us what day that Lazarus died. Lazarus died on March 16th. That's the day Lazarus died. All right. I swear I'm getting to the timeline. Just give me a second. All right, let's see here. What is this? Gemini. Oh, that's the beginning of creation God making everything and creating us. All righty. So this is where the sun will be during the millennium. The sun will be going into Aquarius. Or they share stars, so it's probably already going into Aquarius. Let's see, what's this? Okay, let me move that out of the way. Let me move this out of the way. All right, before I get into the meat of this video and show you something very cool on the timeline, I want to show you this. This is not Photoshopped. This was a video that somebody took in China. China is getting red skies and all kinds of stuff going on over there. And whenever you have a rainbow, it is shaped like the planet. It is a reflection off the planet and the water in the air, and that's where you get a rainbow from. This is not. This is something completely different. This is round up there. I don't know what has caused this or why all these things are happening in China with the red skies and this, but I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's get into the timeline now. All right. Bob Barber had a let me go back into this, which scares me because I'm afraid I'm going to delete myself by accident. Okay, there we go. All right, Bob Barber had a video, and it was very good. And I wanted to add to it a little bit. He proved that, which one was it? He proved that everybody says, well, how long is the warning that we're going to get? And you saw my last video, I said 3 to 7 days, but I'm leaning more towards 7 days now because of something I learned from Bob Barber over at End Time Dreams and Visions. He said that the warning wasn't to Lot, it was to Abraham. And if you count how many times Abraham approached God and asked him if there are 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10, and on the seventh day, the angels go, or the end of the sixth day, and coming into the seventh day, the angels go in, spend time with Lot, and then bring him out. Again, his wife turned back, not because she wanted to see how beautiful the planet was beneath her feet or how many others were saved and going up. She turned back because she was in love with Sodom and Gomorrah. And I can promise you, none of us are going to be looking back. Any of the bride will be looking back because we love this planet. Every single one of us can't wait to get off the face of this earth. So that concept that's floating around, you need to get rid of it. I think we can look back and we'll be just fine. This is the age of grace. It is all in God's hands. If it were about us, we'd fail every time. All right, let me put my glasses on. Do they reflect too bad? No? Okay. So Elijah walked, the story of Elijah, you've read it. And I actually worked with this, with Sue Thew a little bit. I think it was her that did the distance that the Bible teaches us from where Elijah walked to where Elijah walked and to where he walked. And if you did that, it would take approximately a week for Elijah to do all that to finally become taken in the, where he was taken in the chariot of fire. And I know it's not Elisha. I know it's Elisha, but I say Elisha so you know the difference. Elijah was taken up, and Elisha rent his clothes because he was a tribulation saint. But it's okay; he got a double portion. Going through the tribulation is nothing more than God trying to turn the hearts of man to Him. Tribulation is not, God is not going to punish you and then throw you in hell and punish you for all eternity. That's not what tribulation is for. I heard somebody say once, tribulation is for the salvation of the Jewish nation. It will get them their attention. Blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, when God comes to you and you ignore it and pretend like it's not real, but you have this tugging, but you're going to keep ignoring it, that is blasphemy. That is the one sin that cannot be forgiven. Okay. Elijah knew. Enoch knew. The Bible doesn't tell us how long, and I haven't found any extra biblical writings that says how long Enoch knew before he went. Again, Abraham, this was brought in by Bob Barber, knew because it was a 7-day conversation about how many people would be saved. Noah got into the ark 7 days in advance. He knew. He knew exactly for 120 years, but he didn't know the day or the hour until 7 days before when God says, get into the ark. Jonah, he got the word from God on day one and said, go into Nineveh. He didn't want to. He wanted Nineveh destroyed. He hated Nineveh. He walked a day the other way. He got swallowed by a fish for 3 days. He walked a day back to where he started from, and he walked a day into Nineveh. 7 days. 7 days warning before he would walk in Nineveh and tell them, I believe it was 40 days, he told them, but there was a 7-day period of time before word came, which was to Jonah. Let's see. Philip. I don't know if a lot of you know this, but Philip was baptized a Ethiopian, and while they were talking, I think the Ethiopian turned around and Philip was transported. There was no warning recorded in the Bible of this event, but I thought it was pretty cool that Philip is human and is transported I think it was 50 miles. So it was that's the only one that I can't find any time related to. He went from I think it's Jerusalem to Gaza to Ozotus. It was like 50 miles to go over there. So, okay, let's see what else I have. I'm going to get to the timeline, I swear. Give me a second. I did that. Amos 3:7. We will know. God, this is not, we're not going to be standing here. And I'm not saying that And I posed this question to a little group that I'm in talking. Is it possible that we're going to know the date, but God will yank us out of here early? And when we get to heaven, we'll be like, but that's not the day. And God will say, yeah, no, I know, but this is a rapture and you're being taken out. And you knew the day. I told you you would, but I took you early, as opposed to because something, terrible was going to happen. I know that the day that God is going to take us has been written in stone from day one. And I believe that day should fall on the day of creation. He said 6,000 years. I don't think that God is going to go 6,000 years in one day. I think it's 6,000 years. And that's what I found on the timeline. I want to show it to you. Let's see here. When we all go to heaven, we all get a new birthday. We're going to be born into heaven, into our new bodies, and we'll all, the bride, share the same birthday. I would imagine that each year we will share the same birthday as Jesus. We'll all have a birthday together. Isn't that cool? We get to heaven and we're all been like, it's my birthday. It's my birthday. I mean, we'll know each other, just even based on, I'm sure we'll know each other otherwise, but even based on that, we'll all have the same birthday. Each and every single one of us will have the same birthday. This must happen, in my opinion. This rapture must happen before summer ends, September 21st. It must happen before then. All right, let's get into the timeline. My favorite thing. Let's see here. Where is it at? Right here. All right, remember those 4 days. I want to bring this. Let's see if I can get this closer. I don't know. I'm assuming this looks better now that it's not on my phone. And plus I have a pointer, so that's great. All right, down here, right in this area here, our year begins in Nisan. Nisan 1 is the first day of our year. I have taken all of the calendars except for the moon. I cannot put the moon on here because it's random and it changes, and there's no way to apply the moon to this timeline. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm saying that I cannot apply it. I've tried to figure it out and I can't do it. I also cannot do the 28 days for a month, for the 7 days for each week, and Saturday being the seventh day, the Sabbath, and then we count 28 days in a month. I can't put that on here because we would wind up with a whole extra month. There are only 12 constellations. There are only 12 months. I can't apply it to this. So keep your minds open that there might be other calendars. They're not all here. I am not stating that these are the only ones we're to look at. Really quickly, timeline number 1 is the one that I initially looked at, and with so many comments about, nope, it's the equinox, nope, it's the first sliver of the moon after the equinox, nope, it's the creator's calendar, the first full moon after the equinox, and then others, nope, it's the first sliver of the moon after the sun reaches Aries. It does not matter which calendar you want to pick. There are 47 days from the first calendar to the last calendar, exactly 47 days, the same exact 47 days that Jesus rises and defeats death and then walks with man for 40 days and ascends. Right here, he rises and he rises. He went to heaven here to get his new body. He appears to Thomas in the upper room. They walk for 40 days and Jesus ascends. So we have the dates in the Bible when those things happen. Nisan 14, Jesus went to the cross. Nisan 17, Jesus rose. We know that in the Bible it says 150 days. And this is where I run into a problem. It clearly says in the Bible, it is 150 days after the flood begins. Where's the flood begin at over here? There's so much information on this thing now. It's hard to find everything. Right here, Adam sins on this date, and the flood begins on this date. Catastrophe happens on Heshvan 17. Every time mankind destroys itself or goes under punishment or sins so badly, God's had enough. God brings judgment on this day. This is the day that Adam sinned, bit the apple. This is the day the flood began. The Bible records to count 150 days from this moment right here to where the water subsides. It begins to subside. And if you do that, you land on the cross. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. You land on the cross. The Bible says that in the 7th month and the 17th day of that month, that the ark rested on Mount Ararat. That is exactly 153 days after the flood began. And everybody knows what 153 days means. That is salvation. 153 days from destruction to salvation. Jesus pays the penalty. 153 days. If I were to count 7 weeks for 4 weeks, calling it a month, 28 days, it would not land here. If I counted the moon at 29 and a half days, it would not land here. It would be off by several days. It happened back here somewhere. It cannot happen back here because we know, are there not 12 hours in the day? This is the day that Lazarus dies on Adar 31, the day of equal parts. And I showed you that. That is March 16th, the New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is when Lazarus died. Mary and Martha bury him. They are unclean for 7 days. But on the 3rd day, they have to do a ceremony. I've showed you that. 3 days, and they have to do a ceremony. From the time Lazarus dies until the time his resurrection is 4 days. Mary and Martha are unclean for 7 full days. They cannot go near anyone until because if you touch her, now you're unclean. So nobody can touch Mary and Martha because they touched Lazarus. Even though he's been resurrected here, they touched him here. They are unclean up until here. Nisan 3. This is the day before Jesus had a meal with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. This is also 1 year earlier when God turned water to wine. Remember the story at the Canaanite wedding when they ran out of wine. Jesus went in there and he said, fill these containers up with water. These what do you call them? Vessels or whatever they called them back then, but fill it up with water. And Jesus turned them to wine. And of course, whenever Jesus touches anything, it's the best wine. It's the perfect wine. So this happened. This is why I was kind of thinking that perhaps the rapture would happen in this area. The Bible records that 6 days after Lazarus, Mary and Martha have a meal with Jesus, that he would go to the cross. 6 days. He had this before the cross. It also records that 4 days before, Jesus rode in on a donkey and on a colt. 4 days earlier. He did this on Nisan 10, which in my opinion was March 26th. Let me show you this. If you want to start your year on the first sliver of the moon, after the sun reaches Aries, then, and that was 2,000 years ago, then you have to come over here because we're going to assign these numbers to a Gregorian date. Nisan has 30 days. Iyar has 30 days. Sivan has 31 days. And when you assign our date to it, this is what you come up with, depending on when you want to start your year. If you want to start your year on the first sliver of the moon after the sun reaches Aries, you come down here to, let's just go to Tishri 1. Let's just go 6 months, Tishri 1. That would mean that you will not celebrate Feast of Trumpets until October the 31st, which ironically, again, it's 47 days. And I know it's 47 days from the first calendar to the last calendar, lands on Heshvan 17. I think it's on September the 15th. As a matter of fact, most of the world thinks it's in September. Nobody thinks it's in October. Everybody thinks it's in September. So if it's in September, there's only 2 calendars that will work for it to be in September. And that is the equilux, my favorite timeline, and the equinox, 4 days later. Everything else falls in October. I haven't heard too many people looking to October for a Feast of Trumpets, but I'm sure you would, if you want to adhere to this, you have to adhere to this. So again, Moses' first month is Nisan. Noah's first month was Tishri. That's why we count from here, Tishri, forward to know that the second month and 17th day was the day the flood began, right here. And when you do the math, using timeline number 1, it lands on Halloween. When that landed there, I found that a year ago. When that landed there, I was like, no way, wait a second. That's crazy. But here's some more stuff that I found. All right. You know that Mary conceived of Jesus during the Festival of Lights. This is the question I had, and I still don't know the answer. Mary conceives. I thought that she conceived when the flood ended, because it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The flood begins right here on Heshvan 17, right here. You see those 40 days right in there. The flood ended after 40 days. Mary would have conceived and would no longer have had her cycle. Her flood would have ended right there. It's the perfect time for her, for Jesus to be conceived. Now, Jesus, being the fulfiller of time itself, the creator of time itself, and people will argue, oh, sometimes women have babies at 270 days. No, Jesus would have stayed to fulfill his number of 40 weeks to the very day, 280 days. He's not like the rest of us. He was born exactly 280 days later. So if we count 280 days or 40 weeks from this moment right here where the flood ends, we land right here where I thought, and I still don't know, I thought for sure, because it was called the one long day. It was called Jesus, I wrote Jesus born. It's called the Feast of Trumpets. And I thought, this is it. This is when Jesus was born. But then I did what Dr. Barry said to do. And I sat down and I did all the math on this. And I discovered that from the time of the triumphal entry, you can't dispute these numbers. I mean, nobody can really dispute these numbers. 4 days to the cross, 3 days in the grave, 7 days to Thomas in the upper room, 40 days to when he ascends. And the Bible is a little bit vague about this, where it says in a few days. To me, a few days is 3, is Shavuot. When you count that amount of time, it's 57 days. And I'm like, 57 days? What does that mean? But then Dr. Barry says, wait a second. It's not one the first one's called Shavuot, but then there's 2 Pentecosts after that. So my brain started running. How do I do this? What day do I start with? And I asked a lot of people a lot of questions, but this is a Sunday. The Sabbath after is where you would start. 7 days later, then you would count 50 days. You land here on the 1st of Av, which in my timeline would be July 17th. That is Pentecost. Then I counted another 50 days from here, and you would land again on a Sunday, September the 11th. And it stops 4 days before the Feast of Trumpets. And I'm like, what in the world? Why? Because everything on this timeline, when I put it on here, there is no way I could have made the flood begin here, count 150 days, and it land at the cross. And there's no way the flood could begin here, and I count to the second month and the 7th month, in the 17th day. For Noah, this was the 7th month. And it land right when Jesus resurrects, 153 days later, after the flood began, the 7th month and 17th day. So everything lands so perfectly on the timeline. And then this happens to me, Pentecost. And I'm like, why? I spent 2 weeks staring at this. Why those 4 days? Have I made a mistake somewhere back here? Let me go back and recount and count again. Dr. Barry, I knew he was right, because he's one of the smartest people I've seen as far as when these feast days are up. He knows exactly the count, or he knows that they exist. We didn't know that they exist, but he pointed it out to us. And I'm imagining at some point here there'll be another 57 days, and I added it up, but but I would have to skip. I can't skip like that. So I really don't know. Noah leaves the ark 1 year and 10 days after the flood begins. But okay, so I'm back here. I'm on these 4 days, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I can't. And then it dawns on me. Wait a minute. September the 11th, 4 days earlier, God creates time. He does this right here. On the fourth day, you can go back and read Genesis. He creates the sun, moon, and stars for time. And as a matter of fact, if you read that passage kind of closely, let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. How do I find that? Yeah, let's see. Whoops. Okay, let's try to find that right here. Whoa. Almost left the screen. Video was almost over. All right, so let's go to the fourth day here. Whoops. Day 4. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide day from night. So you can only see these things during the night, not from the day. Back here is where God had all the ingredients for the sun, but I believe this is where he lit it on the first day. Notice back here, he had all the ingredients for the sun. In the beginning, this is before creation. In the beginning, God created, notice the word created, heaven and earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now we come to day 1. When did this happen? I don't know. 8,000 years ago? Or, 10,000 years ago. I don't even know. So the first light, God said, let there be light. There was light. God says the light was good. God divided the light from the darkness. God called the day, the light day, and the darkness night, and the evening and the morning, the first day. So we know the sun is there. Okay. The sun's there. So we go to the fourth day. What's different about the fourth day? And God said, let the lights in the firmament of heaven divide the day from night. So we know the sun's there, so you can't see these stars. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. What lights? Everybody says this is the sun, moon, and stars. I don't see the sun, moon, and stars here. I see a paragraph that is written, a sentence that is written, and we're assigning these lights to the sun, moon, and stars. I want to put out a theory that we are assigning these lights to the constellations. The constellations were put out there first in their order, and that's what they were. Because after this, now we get into, even still, sun, moon, and stars. And what is this? Whatever was created here, these lights were created here in the firmament to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Constellations, in my opinion. And God made 2 great lights. They were already created. He made them. He made the sun light up, and he formed the moon and put it in its place. He made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. Oh, and as a side note, he made the stars, billions of them, billions of stars. I think this is the in the firmament. I think this is the constellations. I think that this constellations were set up for seasons and for days and for years. They're for signs as well, So that's just a little something I found. All right, where was I? Back to the timeline. All right, let's get this a little bit bigger here. So we count the 57 days, Shavuot, count the 57 days, Pentecost, count the 57 days, all landing on a Sunday, by the way, so that you can begin your count on the Sabbath after Sabbath after that event and go 50 days. And this is why you have 57 days. 4 days right here. Confused me for a while until we got to creation. September the 11th was the first day of creation. Now look at this. Hanukkah begins on December the 8th. Okay? Kislev 24. 8 days. And it's an 8-day festival of lights. When a woman conceives, at the very moment the egg flashes a flash of lightning. That's the moment that the egg is fertilized. It is a flash of lightning. So I always thought it was when the flood ended. But the more I'm learning from everyone about 911, this is 4 days earlier. I noticed that 4 days, and I go back here and you'll see Jesus might have been conceived, or Mary might have conceived And Jesus might have been born on Pentecost, day one of creation, September the 11th, right here, Elul 28, which is 4 days or 3 days before Tishri 1, September 15th, 4 days. 28, 29, 30, 31. Yeah, 4 days before. And then the 15th, the first day would be Tishri 1. Now, do we have anything else that can show that 4 days? Yes. Lazarus, you have 4 days. The resurrection of Lazarus to this meal that they have, you have 4 days. You have the triumphal entry. Now, Spybreaker did some math for me. From Pentecost, day one of creation, you go 170 days and you land at the triumphal entry. If you go from, whoops, I don't know what I just did. If you go from where the flood ends, sorry, I did that wrong. From where Jesus, or I thought Jesus was born, but it might be here. 48 hours, one long day, the Feast of Trumpets. If you go 170 days, you will land at the cross. And he did a little number search, and he said number 17 is a very important number, and the 170 matches up perfectly with this. It's not 165 days, 149 days. It's 170 days to either this point or this point. So the timeline, I'm going to put in the community section for everybody to take a look at. I just wanted to see where my mind was going on this thing here. And let's see, what did I do? Here we go. And here we go. And I wanted you to, I'll put it in the community section. I'll put it on Discord. I'll put a link to the Discord so you can come into the Discord and look at it for yourselves. I wanted to point out a few things. The 1111 sign, Stan over there pointed out that, and he had a video about it, that 911, 911, there's going to be a game, football, I think it's a football game between the Giants versus the Titans. I'm not into sports, sorry. The Giants versus the Titans. Isn't that amazing that would happen on 9/11? 9/11. We've been calling 911 for years for an emergency. 9/11 is when the Twin Towers came down in 2001. The Twin Towers in 2001, 21 years ago, represents the Gemini. You have two towers there, Gemini, God, man. And I think that, again, 9/11 might be Jesus' birthday. It might be the day that we're taken. I haven't gotten a visit from angels, so I'm not going to say for certain. I'm going to call it an extremely high watch day. And also, we're looking at the 4th for some kind of a 7-day warning, perhaps. 9/11, the day of creation. 9/11, the day Jesus was born. And I have a question mark. Is that the day we go? So a lot of things have we always known? Have we always known it was 9/11? And then just now, as we go through this and we see all the correlations, that now we know it's going to be the time. So I still believe in that warning, and the more I see with Bob Barber's research, I see that it's 7 days. So I don't want to say if we don't see something on the 4th that it's not going to happen on the 11th. I'm not saying that because I don't know. The rapture is a completely unique item. It literally has nothing to do with the rapture of the sleepy church and the believing Jew that will come to faith after they see this rapture event. There is nothing that needs to happen before we go. A lot of people will argue that. I don't want to argue that, but I don't believe anything needs to happen for us to go. And so we watch, and we're like the bride, locked away in the chambers, waiting for our groom to come get us. And every single noise we hear, what is that? What is that? You know, I was at work yesterday. I heard this siren go off, and it was so loud. And I was like, does anybody else hear that? And they're like, I don't hear anything. And it lasted for like 2 minutes. And I was like, it wasn't a trumpet. It was like a siren. I don't know what it was. Nobody else heard it. But I was like, please, it's time. But here I stand. I'm still here. And so we're all still here. And this is the dream that we have. So anyway, Repoman 64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And hit the like button because that helps with the algorithm. It really does. It gets it out there for others. All these videos are going to be, in my opinion, this timeline. Even if I'm wrong about, the head of the year being March 17th, one of these is correct. And when we go, things like this and all the other research, all like Dr. Barry's research and Bob Barber's research and Wackadoodle Samoan and Will, you can actually feel the Holy Ghost in the room when Will watch one of his videos, and Tony, the Cataclysm, Tony Early, he literally is very in tune with things around him as far as like that horn I heard. He has that event happening like every other day. I get it once every 6 months. So, but that's not my gift. We all have gifts. Remember, I want to touch on this real quick before I go. Remember that you all have a gift. Not having a YouTube channel literally means nothing. That literally means nothing. You all have a gift. I have made a video with street preachers, and I'm like, how do you do this? How do you just stand out here and just do this? And he's like, I don't know, it's just my thing. And I'm like, that's the point. That's what he does or she does. She does street. And I really have a lot of respect for street preachers. I really do. And some people make videos, and some people just like Keegan Fernandez and Kevin Swinebreaker, they just do this research stuff and they find stuff and they help put stuff together so that these videos are made possible. There's a lot of people that back up, and we iron sharpens iron. We get together and work on this. I personally have never spoken to Keegan Fernandez, but I have all the respect in the world for him for all the research that he's done. And so don't for a second. Okay, so I have this lady. She runs my Discord. You'll meet her when you get in there. Be good because she's she will be nice when you're in there. But her name is Gina, and she runs Gina News. And Gina finds she has a whole vase full of feathers. She finds them every day. I've walked around looking for feathers, and I live in Florida. There's literally feathers everywhere, and I can't find feathers. That's her gift. God is giving her presents, breadcrumbs, show her that I love you and I'm thinking about you. And here's a feather. And I just want you to know that. My gift is sitting here and just studying this timeline. And it dawns on me, wait a minute, this relates to that. And it matches up perfectly to here. And that's kind of my thing. But it doesn't make it better or worse than your gift. We all have a gift. Some people, I've seen them. I'll be in the store. I just won't walk up to a stranger and just say, Jesus loves you. That's not me. Its timeline is me. But I was in a store one day, and this guy was just witnessing to another guy and just was spot on with everything he was saying. And I walked up and I said, I want to shake your hand. I can't do what you do. That is awesome. And I told the other guy, I said, you need to listen to him because he's right. We are about to leave and you need to study this stuff, And so we had a moment there where we talked about God, but I don't initiate that kind of thing. I'm much too shy for that unless I'm on YouTube. So anyway, Repoman 64, go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody. And accept the Lord into your heart. It is an intimate moment between you and your Creator, the guy that causes every single breath for you to take. The name that is expelled from your mouth every time you breathe. Every single time you say his name, he hears his name from 6 or 8 billion people on the face of the earth as they breathe. Your very breath depends on God. So he loves you. He loves you very much. And going to a quiet place, you will find that in Matthew 6, 5, and 6. That's why I say that. I don't say to be hidden or hidden. It's a private. I want you to go privately by yourself. You don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to be embarrassed. Go into a closet like the Bible says in Matthew 6, 5, and 6 and accept the Lord into your heart. I promise you, we are out of time. We are out of time. This warning's coming. I read an extra biblical story about the ark, and the flood was actually supposed to happen on the 24th, but Methuselah did not want to be counted amongst the wicked. So God delayed the time for 7 days, and the flood actually began on October the 31st, Heshvan 17, instead of Heshvan 10. On Heshvan 10, however, God shut the door, put the animals in the ark, and God shut the door. He sat in there for 7 days. Methuselah died, they buried him, and they mourned his death for 7 days. During that 7 day period of time, nobody came to the ark trying to get in. Even though that was the moment that all the thundering and no rain had happened, but the skies were just angry, lightning and thunder and everything else, still, the warning was there. The 7 day warning was there, but nobody would listen. They did not listen until the rain began to fall, something they had never seen before. They'd never seen rain before. All the water was under the ground and an ice around the planet. So from that very moment when it began to rain, they began. And now the ark is closed. It's October 31st. The rain is going, and now they decide to try to get into the ark, and he says no. And so it is a beautiful story about salvation, and it is there will be this 7 day warning, and I promise you that people are going to see this event and go, it's no big deal. Is it Damascus? I don't know what it is. Is it more rainbows like that in China, more red skies? I don't know what it is, but it's going to be something spectacular. And I still believe in it. I think Amos 3:7 plays a big role in that God will do nothing unless he warn the prophets and saints first. I'm paraphrasing. Revelations 3:3, if you don't watch, I will come upon you as a thief. And we're all watching. That's why we're all here. Few people would scoff, but again, this timeline is not conjecture. It is actual biblical dates that I put, and the conjecture part is where I don't know what calendar to begin in. I believe it's equinox March 17th, but it could be the others. And if it is, we have the dates of where it lands. So again, I'll put this in Discord. You can come in and grab it and study it. And if you find something, make a comment or anything that you have to solidify or dispel anything that you see on this timeline. So anyway, let me escape this. Repoman 64. We will, it was an hour. I was trying to stay under an hour. We will chat with you again later. Now, how do I get it? Okay, here we go.